Have you ever wondered about what exactly darkness of the soul is? Maybe you've heard it somewhere, and maybe you wondered what exactly is a darkness of the soul? Why would someone experience it? And maybe even if what you're experiencing right now as you're on your spiritual awakening journey may be a darkness of the soul. Well, if you've ever wondered about any of those questions, then this video is for you, because I want to take some time today to go over the 10 most common signs and symptoms of a dark night of the soul, so you can gain some insights into what exactly is a dark night of the soul, and also if you may be experiencing one. So stay tuned. Hello there, beautiful soul. In case you don't know me yet, my name is Kay Sanders. I'm a transformational coach and divine messenger, here to assist awakening souls on their awakening journey to awaken to their power within, so they can really step into their power and create more success, more abundance, and more freedom in their life, all while making a bigger impact in the world. And if this is you, if you're on your spiritual awakening journey, I want to invite you, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and also hit the notification so you can get notified whenever I release new content. Going back to the topic today, what exactly is the dark night of the soul? So the dark night of the soul is usually a period of deep inner awakening, like where life simply doesn't make sense anymore. So many things are happening, and usually it's actually kickstarted by something quite tragic or something quite intense. It doesn't necessarily need to be a life or death situation, but that also sometimes happens. Maybe even some really bad illness that you're being diagnosed with, or maybe a loved one, or usually dark night of the soul. It's really in combinations, it goes hand in hand with a spiritual awakening, because dark night of the soul is really that. It's part of your spiritual awakening journey, actually, because you have to go through a certain period of time where a part of you needs to die, in a sense, needs to move on in order to be reborn or rebirthed into the new way of being. So dark night of the souls and spiritual awakenings, they're really going hand in hand because they're really part of each other. And the thing is, when I first heard dark night of the soul, I thought, well, it's one night. It's one dark night where you just hit rock bottom. But actually, it can be stretched out over a few days, even a few months, and even a few years. And it's usually a period of time where all kind of things are happening, where life just doesn't, it feels like life is falling apart. And the other thing is, dark night of the souls, they can usually happen multiple times as well, because as you're going through your spiritual awakening, and if you're not quite sure if you're going through a spiritual awakening, I'll link a video below where I talk about the 7 signs of going through a spiritual awakening. So if you're not quite sure if you are going through a spiritual awakening, check out that video. Link is in the description so you can get some insights into that as well. But the dark night of the soul is really part of your spiritual awakening, because through your spiritual awakening, you awaken to that new way of being. That part of you, the one that you've known up until this point, needs to move on. It needs to be replaced by a newer way of being. And that's usually what happens during the spiritual awakening and the dark night of the soul. But like I said, this can also happen multiple times because you awaken in stages. You don't have one awakening, poof, and you're like fully awakened, because you wouldn't be able to handle it. So you awaken in stages. And with each stage, usually there's a dark night of the soul involved to go through this, to make the transition to that next stage. But let me share with you now the 10 most common signs and symptoms that you may be going through a dark night of the soul. So the first one is that life simply doesn't make sense anymore. And that's also similar to a spiritual awakening. Like I said, usually a spiritual awakening and dark night of the soul kind of goes hand in hand, because also some of the signs and symptoms are similar to that. Now, with the dark night of the soul, it's more of an internal cleansing kind of process as well. But usually, if you're going through life right now and life just doesn't make sense anymore, you're looking for that greater meaning, you're questioning just about everything, like even yourself, your life, your career, your family, your everything in your life, you're just questioning, you're looking for that greater meaning. Then the second common sign is that You're also usually going through a period of immense hardship, challenging times where it may even feel as if life is just falling apart, where really like nothing seems to work for you, where you're wondering, why am I going through this? Why is this happening? What am I a bad person? Why is this happening to me? So this can be hardship in all kind of areas in your life, whether it is health. Maybe you have really bad health problems all of a sudden. It could be financially, where you're all of a sudden think of it like that, you're hitting rock bottom. This can be in all areas of your life. It can be in just one area of your life. Now, usually if it's happening in one area, it does ripple out in all other areas too. But usually, Dark Night of the Soul is a period of some immense challenging times, hardship, because think of it like that. That old self needs to move on. It needs to kind of die off, right? So usually your ego doesn't like it. So there's a lot of inner turmoil going on, a lot of inner fighting, because, well, your ego wants to stay the way it is. It doesn't want to lose a part of itself, because that's really what happens during a Dark Night of the Soul. That part of you needs to move on. And ego doesn't like that. So usually you're going through this time of immense challenge, because it's also asking you to kind of go within, to look within, to find a better way of being. And I know it sounds horrible that you have to go through a really, really challenging time. Now, I just want you to know, it's not always like that. Now, quite frankly, I'm actually going through a Dark Night of the Soul right now. As I'm healing and I'm releasing layers, I'm going through a Dark Night of the Soul right now too, but it is lesser. But some of my earlier ones were intense, where it was really lasting years of me going through really tough times. Now, it's not always like that. I truly believe it's like more the first one is like the biggest one, because this is like the most intense purging kind of phase where you're going through. But then after that, usually the Dark Night of the Souls are not as intense, because for one, you've already gone through the biggest, most intense purging time to really awaken from that part. But they can still be intense. Some, they may not last as long. Some of mine, like the first one lasted, I think, 3 years. It was like, non-stop. It felt like I was just in one entire Dark Night of the Soul. It may have been multiple different ones, I'm not sure, but it really felt like that it was going on for a few years. But it's different for every person. You may only go through it for a short time. Maybe it's not as intense. Maybe it is intense. Maybe it's more intense than what I experienced. Every person is different, but I just want you to know it's happening to your highest and greatest good. And I get it. I get it. You probably say, why would this be to my highest and greatest good? But you see, the thing is, when you then come out on the other side, you have transformed. You have grown so tremendously. So even though maybe right now you're going through it and you're like, this is not fun, this is not cool, I do not like this, just know that once you've made it through it, for one, you wouldn't be going through it if you couldn't handle it. Even if the moment you're wondering, like, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, you don't know how to make it out of it, you have no idea if you're going to make it out of it, just know you are. Don't lose hope. Now, if you are watching this, I did not assume that you were feeling drawn to this topic of Dark Night of the Soul. Maybe you are going through it, and maybe you just need to hear that you are strong enough. Your guides, the universe wouldn't give you, or even God wouldn't give you the things that you're going through right now if they wouldn't know that you can handle it. And it is part of your journey. It is part of what you have come here to learn, to experience, to move through in order to really awaken. So I know it may be very challenging, but just stick with it. Just know it's gonna get better eventually. Hopefully sooner than later, but I truly believe that everything that you're experiencing, you have to go through it. You have to experience it, because my motto is that everything happens for a reason. Everything happens to our highest and greatest good, and everything happens in divine timing. Never when we want it, but always in divine timing. So, but this is really the second symptom or sign, is that you're going through a period of extreme challenge. It can also be just internally as well. It may not even be anything externally, but it may also be internally where you're questioning just about everything. Now, the third sign is that you may then also have physical experiences. This can show up as anxiety, depression, literally physical pain as well. So, because like you're going through somewhat of a purging, right? So you're going through a change, you're going through a rebirthing process. So it can turn into internal and external symptoms that are really showing up. Which brings me then to the fourth sign, is that a lot of purging may be happening, whether it's that you all of a sudden start develop some stomach discomfort, maybe some indigestion, those type of things. But it also could cause you to just want to purge in your home, like where you just want to throw everything out. You want to get rid of a lot of stuff that you don't need no more, because you want to liberate yourself internally and externally from all the things that are no longer in alignment with you anymore. It may even be a time when you're realizing that certain people in your life simply don't feel right anymore. You don't want to be around them no more. Even maybe your job, you may realize that what you've been doing up until this point doesn't fulfill you anymore. Maybe then you're looking to start a business, or maybe if you've already been in business, you're realizing the way you've been going about your business also doesn't feel in alignment anymore. Maybe you're also moving into a different kind of arena, a different kind of area, a different niche, or just a different way of showing up. So it's really a period of a lot of purging, both internally and also externally, where you're letting go of the stuff that no longer serves you in order to make room for the new. Because that's really what happens during a dark night of soul. It's a rebirthing process. You're letting go of the old, and then you're being reborn in a new way of being. Maybe even your belief systems start changing. I have noticed, like during my spiritual awakenings, I now start looking at things differently. I have different values. Now I'm looking for greater meaning rather than the meaningless connections I may have had before. So you're actually changing quite intensely from the inside out. But a lot of purging usually happens during a dark night of the soul as well, where you just really liberate yourself of all the stuff that you no longer need anymore. That's simply not in alignment with you anymore. That's you simply have outgrown it. Now, to help you with this, because usually that can also be very intense, like even just having the physical symptoms, even the internal symptoms and all of that can be quite challenging. So I also want to invite you to check out the video. It's about a light language transmission to really help you during your spiritual awakening, because it can be quite overwhelming. So this light language transmission is really geared towards helping you release a lot of the negative energy so you can really get back to center and feel better again and not so overwhelmed by everything that's going on. And also be sure to subscribe to this channel, because one of my next videos is going to be also a light language transmission to really help you move through the dark night of the soul more with ease, with less of the intense feelings. So you can also always come back to the videos. My light language transmissions are really powerful, that you can always listen to over and over again whenever you feel like you need that extra healing, the releasing, and also the activation to make things a lot easier. So definitely check that out. I put the link in the description below so you can check out that video. Now, the fifth sign is that solitude tends to become your best friend, where you just want to be alone. You spend a lot of time maybe journaling, maybe going within, maybe you feel drawn to meditation or things like that. It's usually where you don't want to be out and about, where you rather want to be home, alone, in solitude, where, like I said, solitude really becomes your best friend, because that's when you then also can assimilate, like, well, what's going on. You can tune in and uncover what is going on, what am I feeling, and then you may also then make sense of that. So solitude usually is also a good sign that if you're usually more out there and all of a sudden you have this period where you don't want to be around anyone and you prefer to be alone and in silence rather than what you've done before, that also is a good indicator that you're going through a spiritual awakening or also a dark night of the soul. And then the sixth sign, that I think that's like one of my favorite ones, is, well, not favorite, this is like sarcastic here, is you're going through an identity crisis. Because what happens is, as you're going through a dark night of the soul, you are it's like I said, it's a rebirthing process. But then as you're going through the stages of your dark night of the soul, then you may ask like, who am I? I don't know who I am, because like I said, your values change, your beliefs may change, the way you look at things change, and then all of a sudden you're sitting like, I don't know who I am anymore. So you may experience a period of identity crisis because you have to rediscover yourself again. You have to find yourself again. You have to kind of get to know yourself again, that new self of you. So identity crises usually happen quite often during a dark night of soul, even a spiritual awakening, because, well, you got to rediscover who you truly are. And that's usually the self of you that you are deep within. So identity crisis also, if you've had any of those, then that also is a good indicator that you were going through a dark night of the soul. The seventh sign is that you simply just feel stuck. You feel lost. Nothing makes sense no more. You don't know which direction to go into. Should you go this way? Should you go that way? Should you do this? Should you do that? And you're just feeling lost. You feel like you have just lost your way. Nothing feels right anymore here. You're looking for greater meaning, but nothing makes sense. Nothing feels right. You're looking for that inner feeling of wholeness, of wanting to maybe make an impact or whatnot, but still you have more questions than answers, and nothing simply makes sense. And you just experience that feeling of, I'm just lost. I feel lost. I feel stuck. I don't know how to get out of here. Which then brings me to the eighth sign. Usually when you're feeling stuck or whatnot, that also then kickstarts a time of searching, of researching, of looking for different ways. So here you may then feel drawn to the esoteric things, the metaphysical studies, the spiritual studies. A lot of people that are going through a spiritual awakening, or then also dark night of the soul, then they're being drawn to those esoteric and metaphysical studies because they're looking for that greater meaning, which then can be found as they're reading certain books or studying courses or whatnot as it relates to spiritual awakening, esoteric, and metaphysical. Because that, quite frankly, if you're going through a spiritual awakening in dark night of the soul, that usually means that you're being activated to find your path in life. And usually your path is to awaken, is to find greater meaning in life, and that will then lead into you doing your life's mission, really stepping into that. And through your studies, through your searching, that will then come about. And then the ninth sign, and that's, I would say, is the most scariest one of all. You may then experience times where you feel like you're afraid of dying. Maybe you have dreams of being chased all the time, or that you're dying in a dream. Maybe you're not completely dying actual, but you may have dreams around the essence of potentially dying, fear of dying. Maybe you're also then driving in a car, all of a sudden you're having thoughts like, what if something happens to me? What if an accident happens? And just the thoughts of dying happens more often. And the thing is, that's actually what happens during a dark night of the soul. That old self of you is dying off. That part of your ego is dying. And I know it sounds quite scary, and believe me, I've been there too. Like I said, I'm going through a dark night of soul right now. I'm experiencing some of those things as well, where I fear that, well, I'm dying, or I've had dreams about dying. But the thing is, you just want to know that nothing is going to happen to you. There are no premonition or anything like that, okay, you're going to drop dead tomorrow or whatnot. It's none of that. That's just your ego in fear mode, because it knows that you're awakening, that a part of your ego needs to move on, needs to be let go of, needs to kind of die off in order to be reborn. That's truly what a dark night of the soul is. It's a rebirthing process. So in order to be reborn, something needs to die, right? Something needs to go. So if you ever experience any of those thoughts or fears or worries about dying, not having enough time to do what you're here to do, maybe missing out on things or whatnot, just know that's that part of you that is now ready to be let go of, so you can really step into your awakened self. It can be scary. It can be scary when all of a sudden you're having those thoughts, but just know you're not going to die. Nothing's going to happen to you. It's just you are being reborn. You're going through a rebirthing process. So it's actually, if you're thinking about it like that, it's actually a beautiful thing, even though it's scary. I'm not arguing that. It is very scary. But unfortunately, that's also part of your awakening process. process of the darkening of the soul. And then the 10th and final common sign of going through a darkening of the soul is that all of a sudden you're experiencing a bunch of weird stuff. Now, you may start seeing things, start feeling more things. You're experiencing things that are not normal in a sense of what you are used to. So usually that's when your gifts are all start to kick in. Maybe you are starting to have experience with, the higher realms, maybe spirit, maybe start sensing things, feeling things, seeing things, all of those different things, all of those things that non-awoken people would consider weird. And you may even think of it as weird. I mean, there were times when I experienced certain things, I'm like, this is just weird. But that's also then your divine gifts are coming through. That's also what happens during a dark night of the soul. You uncover your divine gifts. So here you go. Here are the 10 most common signs and symptoms of a dark night of the soul. Now, as difficult, as painful, as challenging, as scary a dark night of the soul is, and especially if you've experienced multiple ones of those, just know that if you're going through one right now, this is really a period of rebirthing for you right now, where once you're gone through this period of immense challenges, like I said, it can be just a few days, it can be a few months, or even a few years. Just know it is meant to unfold this way because it will help you find your way in life. It will help you find that greater fulfillment and meaning, because as you are on your path, you will then learn the things that you need to learn to really step into what you are here to do. Like I said, your life mission or your life purpose is to awaken. You are really living your life purpose right now, because once you're starting to awaken more, once you're going through these dark nights of the souls and really allowing yourself to awaken, then you uncover your mission. Then you can step into that, and then you're making the impact that you're here to make. So don't be scared of it. Yes, it's uncomfortable, it's painful, it's scary, but just know it's happening to your highest and greatest good. And be sure to check out those videos I mentioned about the signs of a spiritual awakening if you're not quite sure if you're going through one. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you're listening to this, I'm pretty sure you're going through one. But if you want to know a little bit more about some other signs and symptoms of a spiritual awakening, and then you can also see how it kind of connects with the dark night of the soul, how similar it is in certain ways, then it can make more sense for you. And also check out that light language transmission about helping really ease the discomfort around spiritual awakening. And be sure to subscribe to this channel, because my next video is actually going to be a light language transmission to help you with the dark night of the soul. But I just want to say thank you for being on this journey, because I truly believe that you have been led to, for one, on this journey, and also to watch this video for a reason. So allow yourself to really embrace this moving forward. And I'm so thankful that I was able to be part of your day, for even if it was just for a few minutes or for the duration of this video. But I truly hope that you're going to follow your path, that you embrace whatever is coming your way, because it's going to be an amazing journey that you're on. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. Be sure to check out those 2 videos I mentioned, and I will see you again in the next video. Until then, make an amazingly abundant, successful day. Namaste.